Well, we thought you guys might enjoy this. I certainly did not. This
I
is,
did.
yeah, I know you did. This is my Chicago Bears.
Sorry.
And it's one of the reasons I hate the effing Bears because they find ways, creative ways to lose games. Now, I'm going to ask Pete a question that I didn't pre-sell this to him or anything. Pete, what do your coaches always say on a Hail Mary pass? What is the one thing that they emphasize in practice and that they say before Jaden Daniels lines up? What do they say to the defense?
Get deep fast, and knock the ball to the ground.
Yep. And the third thing, never let a man behind you. Ever. I mean, you don't have 8 guys or whatever, not 8, but yeah, 8 collectively, 4 offense, 4 defense. You don't have 8 guys on the 3-yard line and one guy standing in the end zone like this, just kind of waiting in case the ball bounces off of there. So I want you guys to watch this and see how badly that defensive back that you see at the bottom left of the screen, watch what this idiot's doing, taunting the fans in Washington. Go ahead, Jim. Look at that. The snap's already happened. His back is to play.
Don't count your chicken. Oh my goodness.
How many white shirts were behind that guy? 0. You never let the man get behind you. They're going to try to pop it up in the air. It is what a Hail Mary is all about. Doesn't matter if it's Doug Flutie, good friend of ours. Doesn't matter who is throwing that pass. You do not let the man get behind you. It's not the same as just running down the field and the kid's faster than you. They're running to a spot in the middle of the field. All of their receivers were in one spot, and you let one guy get behind you? Idiots. Absolute idiots.
How do you really feel? Anyway, I'll say this. The Washington Commanders are now 6-2. Now, have they played the most brutal schedule? They have not. But let's also answer the other question. They're one of the more brutal teams. That's the reason they got Jaden Daniels. They got him in the 3rd pick in the draft because of the fact that they stunk. They also got a quarterback who came in there who's trying to fix the whole thing up. He's a defensive guy. Seems to be very well liked by the team. The team is embracing Jaden Daniels. They're embracing the fact that they've also got a great running back in Brian Robinson. They're doing everything right for the Washington Commanders with nobody, including me, nobody thought this team had a chance in heck of competing this year in any part of the world of playoffs or anything. Well, they're now 6-2. They've got a quarterback who right now, John, his numbers are potentially numbers of a guy who could win the MVP. I'm not saying he's gonna. It's probably Lamar Jackson, even though they lost yesterday to Cleveland, which was a debacle. But Cleveland also had a different quarterback in there that made a big difference in the game compared to Watson, who's been stinking it up for them. But when you throw 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, you run for another 4 touchdowns, you're averaging almost 6 yards a carry as the quarterback. I would say that you're doing everything. You're running, you're gunning, you're doing the whole thing. If nothing else, he's got to be the rookie of the year. There is no doubt about that. But he's even in competition for the MVP, especially if they can keep this up, John. There is only 2 teams in the NFL that have a better differential of points that they've scored versus points they've given up. Buffalo and Detroit. And then it's the Washington Commanders. So they're doing it on both sides of the ball. I think this makes for a very interesting thing. I got one last thing because you and I talked about this too, John. Jared Goff, for all the people who wanted to flush the toilets on Jared Goff and, he went to that Super Bowl, but he's at the Lions. He's just okay. He's not doing this. Well, I would tell them this. Let's see. He's 80% completions in October, 680 yards in October, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and has a QBR rating or a passer rating of 149.8. All of which is nothing anybody else has ever done in the month of October, by the way. So I would say that maybe Jared Goff is also in that MVP race, John, because He is doing it all, and it's all because he's got a great pair of running backs who make it easier for a quarterback to throw, which is why I'm so critical of all these teams that think that the receivers are the important ones. They're not. It's having a running game so your quarterback actually can fake the run and occasionally throw the ball, and when he does, people are wide open. But what do you think about the whole Jaden Daniels thing and 65 yards in the air that ball traveled, by the way, 65. Yeah. They also rushed three guys. Yeah.
The Bears did everything wrong that they could possibly do wrong, Pete. You saw how many people they kept in, the Commanders, to block. They put out basically 4 receivers, 3 for sure. I think they had 4 out. And the one guy just kind of drifted behind the pile. I'll point out also that Caleb Williams, who got the number 1 pick, he's thrown for 9 touchdowns this year and 5 interceptions. That ratio doesn't cut it really, guys, especially when you're talking about Goff or even Jaden Daniels. There are some real better athletes than Caleb Williams. I said it at the time. It has nothing to do with even where he played at USC versus Tennessee, right, Pete?
Oklahoma.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I was thinking of the other kid. But this is a great ball player, and he does nearly everything right. The team loves him. They're rallying around him the same way they did with C.J. Stroud in Houston last year, Pete. And C.J. Stroud was probably, that close to being a MVP last year, except that, Mahomes they're going to name it the Mahomes Award one of these days, just because he's pretty much always in the running for it.
He is always in the running. And I'll tell you what, Lamar Jackson, you can never discount that guy. That guy is just a freak show athlete. And now with Derrick Henry, but they did get beat by Cleveland. Like I said, they changed quarterbacks too. And that was the big winner for them, was they actually had a quarterback who could throw the football. All right, how about a little college football, John? I know it's a lot of football, but we've got, the Dodgers are leading 2-0. Obviously, now we've got the next game in the series with the Yankees. It should be pretty interesting. But college football, I wanted to throw this out to you. At the beginning of the season, would you have ever guessed that the SEC would only have one team that is sitting in the top 5? That team this year is Georgia. So you've got one SEC team. You've got 3 Big Ten teams. You got one ACC team with Miami. Big Ten, you've got Oregon, you got Penn State, you got Ohio State. How about this as well? The top 20, there are 7 teams that have undefeated seasons thus far. You've got the Big Ten. You've got Indiana, now 8-0. Indiana, yes, it's not basketball. This is football. Then you've got Oregon, you got Penn State. Miami and Pitt in the ACC. BYU and Iowa State in the Big 12. You know how many undefeateds you got in the SEC? 0. So it gives you a little bit of an idea. We've been talking about the parity in college football and how it's kind of getting there. The portal being a big factor. Obviously, NIL is another different kind of a factor. They've really got to figure that thing out soon, and they've got to figure out caps, and they've got to figure out all these different things. But until then, that is going to feed into a lot of different programs and leave some of the other programs out. But the portal, on the other hand, is absolutely something that I eat a little bit of crow on this one because I was not happy about it. I didn't like the fact that guys could just leave and just go. But I look at this right now, and I look at the Big Ten, and I look at Indiana. They got a quarterback. By the way, they won this last game this weekend without their starting quarterback. Their starting quarterback has a thumb injury. They did next man up, and they go 8-0. So it's really a testament to what's going on, I think, in college football, John. But how about the SEC? I mean, I know they still got great teams that have 1 loss. They probably have great teams that have 2 losses. But at some point, it's kind of interesting to see how the Big Ten and the ACC and maybe the Big 12 have sort of stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see because for a long time, I think, Pete, and it probably occurred because of your daughter who went to Nebraska, that you focused in on conferences other than the Pac-10 or Pac-12, Big Ten, and SEC, because there's a lot of really good football played outside of those three conferences. And as it seems now, some of those conferences aren't real happy when they go and play the Big Ten. So a lot of us had said that for a while, that if you tried to play a Big Ten team every week, it's going to wear you down. You're going to get injuries. And, they're a much more physical conference in general. Obviously, some teams are more finesse than just physicality, but there's a lot of really physical teams in the Big Ten. And I think that's taking its toll on some of the teams that are just coming in, Pete.
I would say this too, John. Oregon is built like a Big Ten team. USC is not. UCLA is not. Washington is not. But you look at Oregon, they have a big physical offensive line. They've recruited all across the country and all the islands in a big way as well. They have done such a great job of being one of those extremely athletic, but also extremely physical football teams. Got that great transfer quarterback over there as well. They've really got the pieces to be something really special this year in the Big Ten. They already are. I mean, they've whooped up on teams that everybody expected would be a lot better fight, and Oregon just keeps on going through them. But I think the pretty boys down in Southern Cal are the ones that are sort of seeing the other side of this whole thing going into the Big Ten. And I'm looking right at UCLA and USC when I say that.
Yeah, I was going to say, it ain't just Uncle or whatever, University of Spoiled Children, USC. It's also UCLA.
Yeah.